Welcome to Lost in Revision. All of our content is public domain fairy tales and folklore. We are here to celebrate the original literature instead of just reading the modern sanitized versions. We post short segments of stories daily for people who just want a story to follow along with, and monthly full episodes where we read and discuss popular classics. Come and find us on Patreon to listen to the full chapters early and without interruption. Any support you can offer helps keep this podcast going and you entertained. All of our music is by Nathan Hubble and is used with his permission. Thanks, and enjoy the show.
Chapter 2, Peter's Coal Mine, Part 2. Next morning, Roberta woke Phyllis by gently pulling her hair, but quite enough for her purpose. "What's the matter?" asked Phyllis, still almost wholly asleep. Wake up," said Roberta. "We're in the new house, don't you remember? No servants or anything. Let's get up and begin to be useful. We'll just creep down mouse quiet and have everything beautiful before Mother gets up. I've woke Peter. He'll be dressed as soon as we are." So they dressed quietly and quickly. Of course, there was no water in their room, so when they got down, they washed as much as they thought was necessary under the spout of the pump in the yard. One pumped and the other washed. It was splashy, but interesting. "It's much more fun than basin washing," said Roberta. "Oh, how sparkly the weeds are between the stones, and the moss on the roof. Oh, and the flowers." The roof of the back kitchen sloped down quite low. It was made of thatch, and it had moss on it, and house leeks and stonecrop and wallflowers, and even a clump of purple flag flowers at the far corner. "This is far, far, far and away prettier than Edgecombe Villa," said Phyllis. "I wonder what the garden's like." "We mustn't think of the garden yet," said Roberta with earnest energy. "Let's go in and begin to work." They lighted the fire and put the kettle on, and they arranged the crockery for breakfast. They could not find all the right things, but a glass ashtray made an excellent salt cellar, and a newish baking tin seemed as if it would do to put the bread on, if they had any. When there seemed to be nothing more that they could do, they went out again into the fresh, bright morning. "We'll go into the garden now," said Peter. But somehow they couldn't find the garden. They went round the house and round the house. The yard occupied the back, and across it were stables and outbuildings. On the other three sides the house stood simply in a field, without a yard of garden to divide it from the short, smooth turf. And yet they had certainly seen the garden wall the night before. It was a hilly country. Down below they could see the line of the railway and the black yawning mouth of a tunnel. The station was out of sight. There was a great bridge with tall arches running across one end of the valley. "Never mind the garden," said Peter. "Let's go down and look at the railway. There might be trains passing." "We can see them from here," said Roberta slowly. "Let's sit down a bit." So they all sat down on a great flat gray stone that had pushed itself up out of the grass. It was one of many that lay about on the hillside, and when Mother came out to look for them at 8 o'clock, she found them deeply asleep in a contented, sun-warmed bunch. They had made an excellent fire and had set the kettle on it about 5:30, so that by 8 the fire had been out for some time. The water had all boiled away, and the bottom was burned out of the kettle. Also, they had not thought of washing the crockery before they set the table. "But it doesn't matter, the cups and saucers, I mean," said Mother, "because I've found another room. I'd quite forgotten there was one, and it's magic. And I've boiled the water for tea in a saucepan." The forgotten room opened out of the kitchen. In the agitation and half-darkness the night before, its door had been mistaken for a cupboard. It was a little square room, and on its table, all nicely set out, was a joint of cold roast beef with bread, butter, cheese, and a pie. "Pie for breakfast!" cried Peter. "How perfectly ripping!" "It isn't pigeon pie," said Mother. "It's only apple." "Well, this is the supper we ought to have had last night. And there was a note from Mrs. Viney. Her son-in-law has broken his arm, and she had to get home early. She's coming this morning at 10. That was a wonderful breakfast. It was unusual to begin the day with cold apple pie, but the children all said they would rather have it than meat. "You see, it's more like dinner than breakfast to us," said Peter, passing his plate for more, "because we were up so early." The day passed in helping Mother to unpack and arrange things. 6 small legs quite ached with running about while their owners carried clothes and crockery and all sorts of things to their proper places. It was not till quite late in the afternoon that Mother said, "There, that'll do for today. I'll lie down for an hour, so as to be fresh as a lark by supper-time." Then they all looked at each other. Each of the 3 expressive countenances expressed the same thought. That thought was double, and consisted, like the bits of information in the Child's Guide to Knowledge, of a question and an answer. Question: where shall we go? Answer: to the railway. So to the railway they went, and as soon as they started for the railway, they saw where the garden had hidden itself. It was right behind the stables, and it had a high wall all round. "Oh, never mind about the garden now," cried Peter. "Mother told me this morning where it was. It'll keep till tomorrow. Let's get to the railway."
Thank you for joining us today. I would like to thank all of our supporters on Patreon. Your support helps pay for all of the things that podcasting requires and helps keep this show alive and growing. Feel free to fact check us and offer suggestions to make our show better for you. You can send us an email at lostinrevisionpodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow and give us a good review anywhere you listen, and share with your friends and family.
There's a lot more waiting for us all at the end of the road.